I was fortunate. I was homeschooled for really my most important developmental years, and that has had a lasting impact on me. So that's another thing. Homeschooling, all for it. Go for it. Try to keep your kids out of the system.
Yeah, I think the schooling system is designed to create people that are basically repeating what they're told without questioning. And all of this ties back to what happens in your childhood. The trauma and the psychological things that are being thrown at us are all thrown at us in a way that are going to make you as controllable as possible. The more controllable you are, the more that you're just going to repeat what they tell you and follow in line and basically line up with everyone else, sheep to slaughter, and so forth. You look at something like, I think we should kind of start moving towards things in our home and kind of the king of the castle idea, but it would be remiss of me not for us not to mention circumcision.
Oh, boy.
As we're still kind of talking about, what happens to a developing child. We've kind of moved through, now we're talking about once you've been born, and you look at something that throughout history has been used to control people, without a doubt. I mean, you cannot deny this. It was called Mark of the Slave in ancient Egypt for a reason. And if you look, and there is more research on this topic than you will believe. Like if I tell people, circumcision creates trauma and it creates PTSD in a child and it fractures your psyche and all this stuff, and they're just like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. And I'll tell you right now, if you look it up, you will find research. You will find research on psychology. You will find studies that they have done on infants and how they become more desensitized to pain later in their life and so on. There is tons of research on this. Isn't some crazy idea that I just, concocted in my basement one day. Like, it's fact-based.
Yep, they've got brain scans of showing the entire pain centers. Like, let's take just common sense, too. We don't even need the science. Let's take common sense. We got this fresh child out of the womb that's going to be removed from its mother and father, strapped down without anesthetic so it can't move under these cold blue sterile lights, that we are then going to take that the first connections this child makes to the most sensitive part of its body is it being sliced, hacked, and ripped off of its skin, only to be shipped off and turned into a fancy face cream for some woman to slather all over her face. This basically...
It's in face creams.
It's in face creams. Oprah Winfrey promotes them, or so you can go look that up too. Be like, it's slathering stem cells and circumcision or circumcised foreskin all over women's face because it's better for the skin. Yes, it works. But you couldn't make this shit up if you tried. And so what this does, basically when a child is there and they're strapped down to this point, it puts them into a stress state that goes beyond fight or flight. It goes to this death feign mode, where this creates this ADD, ADHD trauma, which are fictitious diseases, but what it is basically trauma-based. When this child is strapped down and it can't move and it can't fight or flight, what it does, it goes into this primitive reptilian brain function where the person literally checks out. They're gone. It's not like a lizard who just can consciously sit there and not move, and pretend the danger will go away. This is, most of the soul literally leaves the body, where there's a piece there left to deal with the trauma to keep the person from dying. A whole bunch of its other consciousness is checked out and gone, we don't know where. What this does is this splits the psyche into two different pieces. This splits the personality into two people that you're now dissociated from. Basically, from a child's genitals, they're dissociated from it from birth. And then they've got the pain and the stitches of when they get changed and all this other stuff. The thing is, people try to say, oh yeah, it's because the poop and the pee gets in there and they're going to get an infection. The thing is, this foreskin doesn't retract. The only reason that these uncircumcised kids, they have any studies that they get more infections is because improperly trained doctors would tell parents to peel back the foreskin before it was supposed to be. So that would then allow these things to get in there. My child was completely intact, and I tell you what, first time dad, we had no issues with it. It is so easy because the foreskin doesn't retract. It's not a thing. So, but when the doctors are telling parents, oh, yep, you got to pull it back and clean it from birth, well, now you're creating the infection because you're peeling it back before it's supposed to be. But so, to take a look at the trauma that's going on there, the abandonment issues that happen because this infant is trusting its mom and dad to basically protect it. That's what comes out. It can't fend for itself. And it's allowed to be taken from the parents and go through this exceptional level of trauma, only to be put back to mom. And then the nurses and the doctors would be like, oh, he was an angel and he slept right through. He didn't fucking sleep right through it. He checked out. That's what happened. Sorry, I get passionate about this, I swear. It's very intensely. But that's what happens. These kids literally check out. They now, in hearing screenings before going into grade school, they ask if your child was circumcised or not because these baby boys will scream so loud they rupture their own eardrums from this circumcision trauma. So it's like, this is a medically unnecessary procedure that, and it's so funny because, misery loves company, pain loves pain. That's just how it begets itself. So there's so many men out there that are circumcised will be like, oh, I want my child circumcised. They've never even thought about the fact that cutting off the majority of the tip of their child's dick might be a bad idea. The circumcision makes a man much more violent, prone to aggression, easier to anger, more self-destructive, complete destruction of empathy levels. We've got shame that comes from it, from a missing body part from birth, and then the pain of the trauma, the abandonment issues. Then you get the willpower, self-control, the I am, because you've got dissociation states that come from it as well. But there are so many